Welcome to this week's episode of the Pull List Examiner. This is my weekly video where I take a look at the top 3 comics that I'm looking forward to reading. This week's new comic book day is going to be on August 10th, 2022. This week's pull list and every week's pull list is always found in the description of the video below. This week's pull list is a little bit different than most weeks. It's very low on my DC comics. There's no Bat books on my list this week. It's kind of amazing. If you need some Bat books though, I would guess that if you head over to Minutia Minutes channel, he will probably be reporting soon on some Bat books because there were a lot of Bat books coming out this week that were not on my list. With that said, let's take a look at what my top 3 choices are going to be for this week. Coming in at number 3 this week is going to be Star Wars, Han Solo and Chewbacca, issue number 5. In this story, which it's part of a 10-issue miniseries, we have seen Han and Chewbacca go after an urn that's containing the remains of someone that Jabba the Hutt wants. So he's trying to get this urn back, and he's hired Han and Chewbacca. And on their first mission out to go get it, they were matched up with Greedo, which has caused some trouble. And along the way, they met someone claiming to be Han's father. So it's been a very interesting story. We're getting some backstory to his life, and I really like the series so far. We're hitting that midpoint issue number 5 of the series, and I'm looking forward to see what they come up with now, because it looks like they're going to inject some new characters coming up. I will say, I think it was last issue where Black Chrysanthemum was added into the mix as a character, and him and Chewbacca got into this fight, and it was pretty cool. But at the same time, I think the first 7 or 8 pages contain nothing but Wookiee growls. So that was a first for me, to have half of a comic book really be nothing but Wookiee growling at each other. It was pretty interesting. But overall, I have to say that the story has been great, and I'm looking forward to see how they're going to wrap up the series coming up. And at number 2 this week, we have Punisher issue number 5. This is another reboot of the Punisher series, and to be honest, I don't think I've mentioned that this has been on my pull list on previous episodes. You may or may have not seen it in the description, but I have not yet mentioned it. And really, I wasn't going to buy the new Punisher series, but someone, I can't remember who out in the YouTube community, someone recommended it and said it was really a good read, so I picked it up, and I have to admit, it has been a good read. And without giving away too much, I think this is maybe a minor spoiler. If you are planning on reading it and you haven't started yet, just a warning. What happens is the Hand has hired the Punisher to be their leader, and I say hired because the payment has been his wife, resurrecting his wife. And if you know the Punisher backstory, you know that his family was killed in a shooting by, I think, a mob shooting in a park, and he has taken out a lot of his anger through the acts that he does. And here we see him actually getting reunited with his wife. That's a surprise that happens, I think, in issue 1 or 2. And you are wondering how it happened, and then you realize the Hand have the ability to bring people back from the dead. And so he has worked some kind of deal. And in that last issue, we're starting to see the deal fall apart, and this is now a continuation of that story, so it's going to be kind of an interesting take now. But one of the things that intrigues me, and I think I've seen someone else out in the YouTube community mention this too, is that the fact that the new Daredevil reboot, which is written by Zdarsky, is also mentioning that they are going after the Hand. And now the Punisher is the leader of the Hand. So it seems like there most likely is a crossover coming between the Punisher and Daredevil yet again. So I think that's kind of a cool reason to be reading it as well. So overall, it's been a really good read. I don't get a lot of Marvel titles on my list, and I'm glad to see this one made it this week. Number 1 this week is going to be Mindset, issue number 2. If you've been watching my show, then you know that recently I have become a big Zack Kaplan fan. Zack Kaplan is primarily, from what I've read so far of his titles, a sci-fi writer, and right now he actually has 3 titles out in the works at different publishers over at Dark Horse. He has the title Breakout, and over at Vault we have this title Mindset, and he has a 3rd title, Metal Society, which is over at Image Comics, Image Top Cow, and I am reading all 3 titles, and I think they are all done well. It reminds me a lot of like Gene Roddenberry Twilight Zone kind of stories, and there seems to be a deeper meaning in each of the stories, more than just what you're reading at the surface level, which I think is really cool. This new series Mindset started out in issue number 1 with someone developing an app for a phone, and that app ends up having mind control capabilities. So that's kind of where it left off with that first issue, and now going into issue 2, we're going to see what exactly starts to happen because of this mind control that's been introduced into this phone app. So it's been a really fun title with that first issue, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he will progress through the next few. And if you haven't picked up any of these Zack Kaplan titles I've mentioned, I highly recommend picking them up, especially if you're a sci-fi fan. They've been great. Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Pull List Examiner. If you have not yet headed over to my 100 subscriber celebration video, go over there and check it out and leave a comment. If you leave a comment, you're going to be entered into my giveaway. I'm giving away 2 comics. One is the Batman Catwoman issue number 1. It's a special cover, exclusive cover, and it's done by Gabrielle Delato. And then the second comic is a Mandalorian issue number 1, and that is a 1:10 ratio cover for that comic. So go over there, leave a comment, check it out. You'll be entered into the raffle to try and win one of those comics. So thanks everybody again, and remember to read them, bag them, and board them, and we'll see you next time on the Pull List Examiner.